Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and welcoming back to the channel, I've got Michael Ladano from Grab a Stack of Rock. How are you, mate?
I am doing great, and it is just really nice to see you again.
Fantastic. Great to have you back on the show. We're going to be talking about an artist that, to be quite frank, I don't think I've ever covered on a Daydream Nation. And the show was out of our comfort zone, but I think I might change it to In Defense Of. And I'm talking about Bryan Adams and the album Reckless. So this album came out in, I believe, in 1984, Mr. Ladano.
Yeah,
A multi-platinum smash, number one in the US, number 7 in the UK, number 2 in Australia, high up in the charts in Canada, 5 platinum. Fair to say this is the breakout album for Bryan Adams. And I guess my association with Bryan, Mike, was that he was saturated. I may have liked the songs in the day, but because he was played so much on radio and in the clubs, I turned and I was kind of, I don't want to hear any more Bryan Adams. Were you a bit like that? Was he kind of saturated in Canada around 84 when this album broke out?
he was, but I wasn't so much aware of him in '84. I was more like hyper focused, laser focused on heavy metal at that time.
Yeah,
But if you recall, 1991, he did Everything I Do It For You, or
oh,
whatever. That was when he became saturated with the Waking Up the Neighbors album, and I truly became sick of Bryan Adams around that. And also that was the first album where he was working with Mutt Lange, and I could swear that he sounds exactly like Def Leppard on tracks like "Thought I Died and Gone to Heaven." Sounds
yeah,
exactly like Def Leppard.
yeah.
So
But
I
that,
was sick of Bryan in '91.
yeah, well, I agree with you. I concur because that song was number one in the charts for like months. I think it broke the ABBA Fernando record for the most consecutive days at number one in Australia, and it just kept on going and going. And it got to the point that there were music channels refusing to play it as the end of the top 10 and putting some other song on. I think that may be the point, and it might be for another show where there was a backlash against Bryan Adams, and that probably tarred him critically for a considerable period of time after that. But look, you can't deny in '84 that this album was a smash, and there were some songs off this album straight out of the gate that really appealed to me in the day. And why don't we just talk about some of the songs, and that'll just warm us up. And well, first thing I want to say is all the songs are written by Bryan and a guy called Jim Valanche.
Jim Jim Valance.
Jim Valance, thank you. And he's written for songs for Aerosmith, Tina Turner, Alice Cooper, Kiss. He is a bit of a professional song craftsman.
Hmm.
And, there's you got to look, when you look at the album from top to bottom, there's hooks galore, isn't it? That's something that Jim is, they've got a good sort of synergy going between both of them, haven't they?
They are a songwriting team. I'm trying to find a picture of him in here. He's so not looking very rock and roll. I was always surprised when I saw pictures of him with Aerosmith, and it's like he looks like he's an accountant. But yeah, no, him and Bryan are a songwriting team. They did contribute material to "Creatures of the Night" by Kiss. Um, and Eric Carr from Kiss, one of his tracks ended up on a Bryan Adams album, a song called "Don't Leave Me Lonely." But yeah, Jim Valance and Bryan Adams are sort of a legendary songwriting team here in Canada, and their track record is certainly proof of that. Um, I don't know, like it's kind of like I'm trying to think of another example. There's always these songwriters out there who have kind of like a behind the scenes partner who co-writes all the songs with
Elton
them but
John.
doesn't share the spotlight.
Elton John.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's more in that case Bernie's more like the lyricist, right? Or in this case it's a much more 50-50 kind of musical thing. I think Bryan comes in with a lot of riffs as well
Yeah, more on the music side, but yeah, you're probably right. But I guess I was illustrating somebody behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But one thing I get the feeling with this album, this had a big push. It was the coming. It was like I get the feel with Bryan Adams' career, and I've been researching it. He did an apprenticeship, and he was writing songs for other folks, and he did a couple of albums that did reasonable business, but weren't exactly blockbusters. And to me, I think that A&M Records put a lot of push. This was going to be their Diamond Star project because it was produced by Bob Clearmountain, he who has produced the Rolling Stones, Pretenders, Paul McCartney, to name a few. It features Tina Turner. It's got Lou Gramm on backing vocals. It's got a crack band. I think that there's been a lot of money and a lot of focus to make this a success. And you look at the video clips, they're kind of cinematic. So I think there was everything around this project was, let's make Bryan Adams a superstar. And voila, the outcome was he became a superstar. People around the world got to know Bryan Adams. But it's all of the hooks. It's so radio friendly. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to reach the folks, is it?
No, but I'm going to argue that it's not just the hooks. I'm going to say that there was an image here of this young guy in jeans and a jean jacket, and that was appealing to people. Springsteen was big at the time, blue jeans and a sleeveless T-shirt, and Bryan Adams kind of rocked a similar youthful version to that. I think he was tapping into a thing that was happening at the time visually. I think his rock was, I mean, immaculately written. This is true of all 10 songs on the album. I think 8 of the 10 songs could have been singles, to be honest with you. This could have been like a Def Leppard situation without Mutt Lange. Um, there's so much I can heap praise on about Reckless, but the production, Bob Clearmountain, you mentioned, the production on this is immaculate. It is strong, clear, great drum sound, great guitar tones. You mentioned
Yes.
the crack band.
Yes.
He had a guy named Keith Scott who played lead guitar on most of this album. Keith Scott's a great soloist. And yeah, like everything was locked in on this album. I am not as familiar with his first 3 albums. I believe this is his 4th. Cuts Like a Knife, the single from the previous album, was a minor hit here in Canada. I remember seeing the video, but the video was much more low budget looking than what came with Run to You and Somebody. And of course, It's Only Love. Yeah, you talk about a push. We have a distorted view in Canada because there's something called CanCon, which means that radio stations have to play, I think it's like 40% Canadian music in Canada. So Bryan Adams had an extra push in Canada because he had that boost. There's a 1991 controversy, though. He was ruled not Canadian content in 1991 because of the Mutt Lange production. Uh, there's a system for how they determine Canadian content, and yeah, that was controversial in 1991, and that was anyway. He was pushed hard in Canada big time. His videos were always on TV. His songs were
Yes.
always on the radio. You
Yes.
asked me like if I felt like I was being like saturated by Bryan Adams back then. I really didn't, because again, I was laser focused on heavy metal, but I also had a younger sister that wasn't into heavy metal but still liked rock and roll, and this was more her thing. So this was kind of like, I respected Bryan Adams. He wasn't quite heavy enough for young macho trying to be macho Mike, wearing his like studded wristband. But I respected him because he was a guitar playing, songwriting rocker. And I wanted to encourage my younger sister to listen to what I considered to be rock with some integrity to it. So I gave Bryan Adams a pass back then, but he did kind of like just kind of sail past me as I like bought Wasp albums and
He
Judas
was
Priest.
accessible. He was accessible to you. I had a neighbor who wasn't into heavy metal, but just like rock and roll. And I remember he had the cassette tape, and we'd just drive around the local area like hoons and played this album. And I bought a copy of this album, cheap, secondhand, for the purposes of this show. And I was surprised I remembered every song. So
Yeah.
that is the ability to write a great song with great hooks, because it was in there. It was tapped in the recesses of my brain. I'm talking about the deep cuts. Oh, I remember that. Oh, yes, I remember that, because everyone knows the hits, but it was the deep cuts that I was surprised that I remembered them from start to finish. But I want to go back to the image that he was pushing, and I think you made a good point, which I agree with. The white T-shirt, the clean-cut looks. Was he pushed by A&M Records as the alternative Springsteen?
Uh,
So when you look at the lyrics aren't they're not deep. They're not like
right.
deeply metaphors. Um, you can't say the lyricism is at the level of Springsteen or a Dylan or
Right.
anything like that. There are cliches, but I don't mind cliches as long as they're the way they're arranged and how they synergize with the music. Do you think that the record company was deliberately marketing this guy as an alternative to Bruce Springsteen? Maybe I won't say the word dumbed down, but even more accessible Bruce Springsteen.
Um, there are parallels, definitely. They both kind of had a voice that was in that raspy range, and earthy may perhaps be another good word. If you remember, there were a couple of charity records that came out. Uh, what was the USA for Africa song called? It's slipped my mind. But, Springsteen had like a hook in there where he like poured on the raspy thing. And in Canada, we had a similar charity single called Tears Are Not Enough. And of course, Bryan Adams had the raspy hooks. So yeah, I think there were parallels. I think that maybe not so much an alternative to Springsteen, but maybe, hey, if you like Springsteen, maybe check out our down to earth. He's not from New Jersey, but maybe you should check out this guy. You might like him too.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I want to defend during this show is there is a criticism that he is beige and a bit bland, but I think
Sure.
that this album has got a lot to recommend in regards to songcraft, hooks. A hook is a hook. A good song is a good song, and maybe the lyrics aren't Beatlesque or Shakespearean, but that doesn't detract that they're good songs that have lasted cross generational. I mean, I'll turn on classic radio, Mike, and I still hear these songs to this very day. But that's not to say this album's perfect. There are some elements that, I'm quite fatigued. There are some certain songs we'll talk about that I don't want to hear ever again. So why don't we talk about, arguably, in my opinion, his greatest song, and that's Run to You. In my opinion, this is the masterpiece on the song. I don't know if you share the same opinion, but let's talk about this one, because this was the song that introduced me to Bryan Adams. So I remember the video clip, and I just watched it last night just to refresh my memory, and it's so cinematic, you know. It's got all the elements of weather. It's got the zoom camera, and he's got the girl and the thunder and the lightning, and it's not overly complicated, but boy, does it get its message across, and it really does match the sound of the song itself. And the song is a very atmospheric, textured song. It's much more complex than people would have you believe. So I'll throw it over to you. What are your thoughts on Run to You?
Okay, so why don't we start with the music video that you mentioned? I like how like every 80s music video looks like it was shot on the exact same soundstage, with the fake tree and there's no back. It looks very surreal actually. It's kind of cool. There's a very 80s style of that music video, and it's very surreal and very cool, and Run to You has that, but it also has a lot of energy and sort of desperation to it. And he's like he wants to get to this girl, but it always seems like she's just a little bit far to reach, and
Unattainable, just like at the
yeah.
fingertips, just can't quite get to it.
Right. So like as a 13-year-old kid, boy, does that imagery ever capture me? And I don't know, he just seemed cool in it. He's got this guitar, and man, the guitar tone on this, like you talked about the atmosphere, the guitar tone on this track, the one part where it comes in nice and spare,
Oh, you're talking about the middle section where the
yeah.
instrumental break and the build up. There's so much build up to the second
Oh yeah,
chorus.
that guitar, and then
Yeah.
it doubles. Love that.
So if that was a metal song, you'd have a lead break.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you'd have a
they
lead
do
break.
the opposite end. You know, guitar strumming, chords. So that makes it even more effective than, going down the normal route. That's why I think this is a much more complex song than people would have you believe.
Also, the keyboards. There's something about that keyboard voice that they're using. It's very haunting, and it really fits the atmosphere of the song. And if I knew the keyboard player's name, I would say it. But I just think the keyboard part on this song really, really helps make it. It's a
Tommy
huge part of the
Tommy
song.
Mandel.
Okay,
Mandel, yeah.
huge part of the song. Like not that it's a huge part of the song in like a structural sense, but a huge part of the song in an atmospheric sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
I,
agree 100% with everything you said. It's the one and true Bryan Adams song that I go to. It was the one that I liked when I was a young fella. I didn't like Somebody so much. And I don't know if that's the one that you're sick to death of,
Yeah,
or if you're sick to death of
we
Heaven.
will get to that. But one thing I want to, just before we move on to the next song, is I love the drums in Run to
Mm,
You. There's this the drums keep a very powerful, steady groove, and the bass locks tightly with the kick drum. And there seems to be this clip snare sound, and it's slightly gated, but it really adds a lot of effect to this whole song. So, there are some dated, there are a lot of drum sounds on this album. They're very much of their time, but they don't sound dated. Whereas
mhm, mhm.
some drum sounds from the 80s sound incredibly dated.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you agree that the drums on this song are just so, yeah, just really
Oh
speak?
yeah. When I was listening to this, I felt like everything about the production was really like still sounds good. But the
Yeah.
drums in particular, yeah, if you isolate them in your head, sure, of course, you mean they were recorded with 1984 technology, so they have a certain sound reminiscent of then,
Mm,
but are they strong? Are they crisp? Are they clear? Are they sharp? Yes, yes, yes.
mm,
Everything about those, they sound big enough, but not
mm.
overwhelmingly 80s thunderous big. They're just it's like the Goldilocks. Just right. Just
Yeah.
right, these
Yeah,
drums.
absolutely. All right, the next song I want to talk about is Heaven. So this
Sure.
was the song that went to number one. It's been covered by a lot of R&B artists, modern pop singers. This seems to be the song that has a lot of transgenerational endurance. It keeps on going. I've heard this song played a lot, but with different singers. Um, I think it's a power ballad that I really enjoy, and I'm not a huge fan of power ballads. Some people find this overly sentimental, but I think the melody, the vocal performance is endearing and sincere, and it's got that nice rasp, but it's kept in the way he sings it. It's in a warm tone at the same time. What do you think of this song?
Yeah, you're right. He could have gone like full Rod Stewart rasp on it. I'm not a huge fan of this song. I do like his vocal performance. You mentioned the word sincere, and I agree. I was going to use that word myself. This is back before, they really smoothed and polished all the edges off of every vocal performance. And you can really hear the flaws in his voice if you just listen to the voice itself. You can really hear the flaws in it, but it works. And it's one of the things that makes this version of this song special. Now, I know it has been covered by a million other artists, and I'm not super familiar with those versions. I'm really only familiar with Bryan's version, but I did notice just this week when I was listening to it, damn, I think the band Europe ripped this song off for Carrie. I really do. I couldn't get the song Carrie out of my head when I was playing Heaven. And I mentioned this to our mutual friend Tim Derling, and he's like, yeah, no, I hear it too. So I don't know if the viewers will agree with me or not, but I think Europe ripped this song off for Carrie.
And there's another thing. I'm sorry, I seem like I'm running a drum clinic on Rock Daydream Nation, but the drumming on this song is really subtle but powerful at the same time. I think Pat Stewart does a magnificent job on this album. But the snare is got it's total 1980s power ballad territory. It's deep and resonant, but it's heavily reverberated,
Hmm, hmm.
and it gives this wide and atmospheric sound for this. For the song, it adds so much texture to the lyrics. Again, the video clip's good. with the TVs, and it's simple but effective. And boy, I think A&M were on a winner. You know, they put a feeler out with a little rocker with Run to You, and then they follow up with the ballads. So there's some marketing genius here. The way that they've released the singles off this album to push it to multi-platinum status. But I like this. I like this song a lot. Let's talk about Summer of '69. This is the song that I can live without. I'm sorry, because it was so saturated when I went to the clubs, on the radio. It gets played to this very day. And I know it's got a lot of nostalgia, whimsy, but there were a lot of songs, in that era that I didn't like. Like one that comes to mind was John Mellencamp, or John Cougar Mellencamp, with ROCK in the USA, where every album they used to pick out, they would craft a song that was purely nostalgic. Let's look back to the 50s or the 60s. And to me, it's a little bit schmaltzy and cheesy. And I've never really warmed to this song, but a lot of folks, especially in Australia, love this. And if it's on the jukebox, they would press this song. What do you think?
Mixed feelings, but not anything approaching yours. Mine are positive. I have probably heard this song, gosh, thousands of times in my life. I don't know, but
Are you
why am
fatigued?
I?
Are you
No, that's
fatigued?
the thing.
You're
I'm
not
not.
fatigued.
I'm
Okay.
not. Maybe some things about it are sort of over familiar, like that underlying keyboard part just seems like it's a earworm
Yeah.
to me, but I don't know. I don't hate this song. It's a bit, yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia associated with it because it wasn't the summer of '84 that we cranked it, but I remember we did crank it a lot in the summer of '89, and we
Yeah.
sang the lyrics to summer of '89. Um, we liked the lyrics, like you said. He's not Springsteen. He's not writing poetry, but there's something about Jimmy quit and Jody got married, and we knew we'd never get far. We were just buying when I was listening to this song on the radio in '89. I had just like bought my first guitar, so here he's singing about his getting his first guitar, and we were like talking amongst our friends as forming our first bands together, which never happened, but we kind of listened to this song and thought, yeah, that's what we have in our future. I don't know.
Look, he's got the common touch, and that's one thing I've got to say about Bryan Adams. He does
Yeah.
appeal to the every person, the every man, and this song, although it doesn't appeal to me, it does appeal to them. It tells a little story. I think he's being a bit disingenuous in recent interviews to say, "Oh, it was about sex." Now, I have looked at the lyrics up and down, left and right, and I cannot find any reference, any Andre. So I think he's being a little bit cheeky here, Michael. Uh,
Well, Jody got married.
yes,
That's either would be sex involved with that. Summer of '69 is known as the Summer of Love, which we all know is a metaphor for something else that they did a lot of in the summer of '69. And running, isn't there a song about, we are young and reckless? Okay, so yeah, okay.
I think he's being. It does. There's nothing appears. I think he's just
No,
beefing it
it
up. It's
not
being about
over.
in a young band making music, friendship, a formative romance. That's about as far as it gets.
It's it's no more it's no more about sex than say a Bon Jovi song about growing up in New Jersey.
Yeah.
It's a teenage experience, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think
he's
he was basing it on the number 69. But anyway, all right.
no, gosh, no. That's is he really? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, that's what I think he was saying. But anyway,
Oh
but
no, I've
there are no
never.
lyrics. Seriously, no lyrics. Moving right along, Kids Want to Rock.
Yeah,
I think this has an AC/DC element, my friend. I
sure.
think there is some Malcolm Young style rhythm guitar from Keith Scott, and I can't put my finger on it, but it reminds me of an AC/DC song. Can you help
Sure.
me?
Johnson era AC/DC for sure, I think. Maybe something from along the era of maybe Blow Up Your Video, something like that. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I hear it too. Um, I remember when I first heard Kids Wanna Rock, I was surprised. I was like, whoa, like Bryan rocks this hard? I didn't know that. And I think it was like a live version that we had in Canada that we saw the most. But yeah, it was not what I expected from him. Listening to it this week, I definitely hear that AC/DC vibe. I could hear Johnson singing in it in my head for sure. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
all it
oh,
really
absolutely.
needs
With
is
the Ras, the Uber Ras, you can imagine him singing the line, but it'd be a bit more dirty, the lyrics. But when they start off with that blues rock power chord at the start, and it's got that driving eight no feel, yeah, I like it. I like it. Do you like this song?
not my favorite on the album, but I think it's
Yeah,
got its place on the album. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think the sequencing on this album is also something that deserves praise. I think it's really well sequenced. Um, I think Kids Want to Rock, coming right after Summer of '69. I think that's a great 1-2 punch right there. And then we go into, of course, the Tina hit. But I think, yeah, that's a great side too. 1-2 punch opening.
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the Tina one.
Sure.
Tina did a lot of guest. Well, I mean, she was just a force of nature in the '80s. That was the second coming of Tina Turner, and yeah, I think Turner and Adams really push each other vocally on this one, and her use of the vocals on the song is quite creative and strong. What do you think of this track?
There's a lot of praise that I can heap on this track. Even back then when I was a metalhead, I always respected the anti-entity. I've always
Oh,
thought that she was just a powerhouse singer. Like
mm,
even back then, I recognized that she really had some power to her voice that most singers just can't touch. So I love the guitar lick. I think that's a great little guitar lick. That's a good foundation for a good song. Um, I think that Tina, she absolutely blows it up on this song. I think there's certain lines that she sings here that are just outstanding, you know, but she doesn't try to overshadow Bryan, is what I noticed. Like they are definitely coming across as equals on this song, and that's not always the case when you get a duet with somebody of Tina Turner's stature. Sometimes that person just overshadows the actual star, the actual lead singer. I think that she could blow Bryan Adams away on this track if she so chose, but she's too professional.
yeah,
She matches people. She matches their intensity. She matches their feeling.
yeah. She
And so
sings
she,
within the song. She doesn't overpower the song. She knows what's the song requires, and she works within the structure,
yeah,
within the fence. She doesn't go over the fence.
yeah, exactly. And I think
Mm,
I think there's like a certain call and response to the way that they trade off lines and the way that they play with the melody of the song and how Tina kind of maybe improvises with a few notes here to take it to a different level. I think there's really, I think they probably spent a lot of time in the studio working with Bryan and Tina to just establish exactly what notes they were going to use. And I think that, you couldn't imagine a better version of this song than what is on the album. It is every word of it is exactly the right everything, power,
so,
phrasing.
from your praise, would it be fair to say this is one of your favorite tracks on the album?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it makes me wish I had some more Tina Turner in my collection, but that's a discussion for another day or another episode.
Yeah. Another song I want to champion, which I really like, and it's one that I, sort of didn't play much in the day, is "Somebody." It's got a bit of an
Okay.
anthem feel. Huge chorus. The production is punchy, and it kind of captures the blue collar romanticism of Bryan Adams as the everyman, which he does so well. What do you think of this song?
This is actually the one that I'm kind of tired of. I liked it a lot as a kid because it's a good rocker. And I still recognize it. It's a good rocker. It's got the shout chorus, the gang chorus kind of thing. Um, but I don't know. For some reason, I don't think this song has the longevity that Run to You has. Maybe it's just a little too middle of the road. I don't know. Um, I don't want to use phrases like, oh, it's paint by numbers or whatever, but I need somebody like you. Everybody needs somebody. You know, it's not really.
Yeah, look,
I don't
okay.
know.
I mean, the way you say it, it sounds very cliched and basic, but the way it matches the syncs with the rhythm and the melody, I think it again. It's outrageously hooky. Look, this album, as I said, it's not Shakespeare. The lyrics aren't Dylan-esque, but boy, oh boy, I think the hooks get it over the line for me. And something like Somebody, I think, is just such a punchy, anthem-like song that it kind of wins you over, although you feel guilty for being won over. You know what I mean? You know that you're being, you know, it's not high art, but at the same time, at the end of it, you go, oh, it's done it to me. And that's what I found with this album. I so much wanted to hate this album. You know what I mean? But there's songs that, you know, a lot of these songs are built into pop culture, uh, you know, classic rock consciousness. And, you know, at the end of it, you sort of won over. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Are there any songs that you would? I mean, I've been yabbering on about and focusing songs. Are there any songs that you want to put to the table and have a bit of a chat about?
I do actually. There's one song in particular I wanted to get your opinion on. The closing track, Ain't Gonna Cry. Totally unexpected way to end this album. It's reckless rock and roll. You know, we talked about how Bryan and Jim wrote songs for Kiss. Imagine this. Imagine Bryan and Jim writing Ain't Gonna Cry for Motley Crue, circa Girls, Girls, Girls. What do you think? You think Motley Crue could do Ain't Gonna Cry?
Yeah, possibly. I think it's a solid closer, and it keeps the rock momentum going. So I think when you finish this album, it wants you wanting more, which is a positive. I don't think it's up to the level of Run to You. I think it is a bit of a, I wouldn't say it's a filler track, but I think it's probably at that next level. But it's a solid closer. Number nine, Long Gone, because I think this is a forgotten deep cut, which has a really gritty, bluesy edge. It doesn't have the instant hooks of the radio friendly songs, but it's got some edge to it that I really like. Do you like that song?
I do. But I have some notes, actually. Just
Share
like I
that with
think
us. Please share.
just like I thought Motley Crue would be good at covering Ain't Gonna Cry. I think Long Gone would sound great with Joe Elliott from Def Leppard singing it.
I could
I
hear
think Def
that.
Leppard could cover this. I think it's a fun song with a fun chorus. I mean, it's just a fun chorus. You just swing to it, right? You just swing to it. You have a bottle of whatever your favorite drink is in your hands. You're swinging, you're with your girl, you're at the bar, you're having a good time. You can hear the band on stage playing that song from whatever bar you like. This is sort of like a quintessential summer Canadian song. There's an artist named Kim Mitchell who kind of like made his bread and butter with songs like Long Gone, and he had a summer hit with songs like that like every year. So to me, that just sounds like summer in Canada, you know? Um, it's kind of a deep cut, but I think Def Leppard could do justice.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. It's definitely in the same ballpark. And yeah, so with this album, what are your thoughts? What are your final thoughts on this album?
Well, if you're going to ask me to give it a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably a little Canadian biased and would give it like a strong 8.5 out of 10. I think it's really good. I don't know how attached I got to it during the last 2 weeks. Like as I do every time you and I do a show together, I immerse myself in the album for about 2 weeks. But with a lot of them, I find that I don't necessarily come back to them after you and I have done our show. Prince is one that I continually come back to. Purple Rain. I haven't come back to Slayer so much, and I never went back to Tough. But I don't know. I almost feel like you and I should reconvene at some point in the future and revisit how I feel like a year down the road. Because if it sticks with me and I continue to play it, that's the true test. That test is one that Prince passed, but Slayer did not.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I give it probably a seven. Because yeah, look, you realise that there's some songs here that are a little bit on the filler side, but he does it with such sincerity and conviction. It raises the material. But boy, oh boy, Run to You, Heaven, Somebody, the radio hits are just so ingrained. Um, you know, a hook's a hook, a good song's a good song. And, he does sing cliches, but boy, he does it so well. So, yeah, I think it's a fun listen. And it was enjoyable because, as I said, there was some deeper cuts or there was some songs that just came back to me. And I felt quite nostalgic. It was like, my next door neighbor with his V8 Ford Fairmont with the cassette playing this full bore, and it brought me back to 1984. So it was just a fun, nostalgic sort of experience. And, look, sometimes, people get too pretentious and a bit snobby about, bands like this, and just take it for what it is. Music's music. And I found it a fun listen. So I was actually surprised. So I've given it a healthy 7. But I'm sorry, I don't think I'm going to go into deep into the catalogue because nobody's going to convince me that Everything I Do for You, the Robin Hood song, I don't think I'm ever going to visit that one ever again. Michael Ladano, as always, fantastic having you on the show. You can see Michael Ladano on Grab a Stack of Rock. I've been on it. It's a great show. Every Friday, Saturday, just check YouTube. Plenty of content. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. We cover all genres. Next week we could be covering thrash metal, punk, post-punk, new wave, hard rock, rock. We just do it all. As long as it's got rock in it, we cover it. Please like and subscribe. Put your comments. We love to read. And more shows in 2026 and beyond. All the best, and cheers. All the best. Thanks, Mike.